Weegee was born Usher Arthur Fellig on June 12, 1899 in Lemberg, Austria. Arthur was one of 7 children born to Bernard and Rachel Fellig. To flee anti-Semitism in Europe, his family moved to New York on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. He started going by the name Arthur to better assimilate with the American culture. Arthur was born into a poor family where his father and mother paid rent working at their tenement building. To help his parents with their income, Arthur dropped out of school and got a job as a tintype photographer. This was an inexpensive process where the photograph was produced on metal and was processed right after it was exposed. After doing this job for some time, a commercial photographer allowed Arthur to assist him. Finally, a break for the aspiring photographer. Years later, he would quit and become a full-time street portrait photographer. Arthur made little money from his portraits of the children in Manhattan. To escape pressures at home, he set off on his own, taking various jobs while living in shelters or parks. After a string of dead-end jobs, Arthur starts working for the Duckett and Adler photography studio as a darkroom assistant. After a few years, the New York Times hires Arthur, and he works in the darkrooms for 2 years. In 1924, Arthur again gets a new job, yet at Acme News Pictures, he starts filling in as a news photographer. This job keeps him off the street and into a new apartment. In 1935, Arthur begins his freelance career, and his photos start getting published in various New York newspapers. Arthur goes on to form an association with New York police. They allow him to install a police scanning radio in the trunk of his 1938 Chevrolet. This later prompts the nickname Weegee for Arthur's ability to arrive at crime scenes ahead of the police. The nickname comes from a phonetic spelling of the popular board game and infers that Arthur had a supernatural intuition. He photographed dead gangsters, fires, suicides, and other crime scenes around New York. He was becoming successful and popular from his late shift photojournalism. On the back of his photographs, he stamped, "Credit photo by Weegee the Famous." From 1935 to 1947, Weegee's best work emerged. Some of his photos were even produced in the trunk of his car to make a deadline.
This is one of Weegee's most famous pictures. It is entitled "A Murder in Hell's Kitchen." This famous photo inspired such filmmakers as Stanley Kubrick and Joe Pesci. The next picture is entitled "In Top Hats." These two unfortunate fellows decided to slide down a banister at the Aston Bar for fun. When police were called in, they assaulted the police officers, and then Weegee got this picture while they were in the back of a paddy wagon. This is Harold Horn knocks over a milk wagon with a stolen car. It's exactly that. Harold Horn stole a car and was driving and knocked over a milk wagon. Weegee was fortunate enough to get this picture in the back of a police car. This picture is entitled "Joy of Living," another famous Weegee picture on 3rd Avenue, where a car ran onto the sidewalk and killed one person and injured 2 other people in front of the marquee. Weegee enjoyed the nightlife in New York City. Here is an example of how much he loved the high life. Here are 2 drunken men stumbling around New York. Here's another example of Weegee staying out late and taking pictures in the park. He found a man blowing bubbles in Washington Park late at night. Weegee also loved Coney Island. Here is a picture of a wife feeding her husband as she watches the circus. Weegee also dealt with the love side of New York. The next 3 pictures are called "The Warm-Up," "The Kiss," and "The Clutch." Weegee also dealt with more serious matters, like the war. This is a picture of a woman reacting to the news of D-Day. in Times Square. This picture is a picture of some sailors in the Navy reacting to the war being over. Weegee also had an interest in the African American community. Here's a picture of churchgoers on Easter Sunday in Harlem. Weegee would sometimes stay up till 9 in the morning. He would sleep at bus stations, beaches, and park benches, hoping to be the first one on the scene to get some of these pictures, like in parks or at crime scenes.
Though his photos were somewhat gruesome and featured death, they eventually turned into classics and shown in various exhibitions. Edward Steichen featured Weegee in an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Weegee was a success. His photography book, Naked City, got published in '45 and began working as a society photographer for Vogue magazine. In 1947, after his marriage to Margaret Atwood, Weegee moves to Hollywood. There he looks over motion picture version of Naked City and becomes a technical consultant for other future films. He even played small roles and even made a film of his own. Eventually, Weegee divorces his wife and returns to Manhattan. He begins making caricatures out of lens distortion experiments. He distorts celebrities like Marilyn Monroe and people in political office. These works were popular and featured in magazines and in more photographic exhibits. In his last years, Weegee was diagnosed with diabetes. He managed to write an autobiography and assist with films made in Europe. He also produced how-to books on photography techniques. Weegee died the day after Christmas, 1968, at age 69.